Good morning, distinguished guests, respected colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure and honor, to be presenting my work at the National Conference for Domestic and Ecotourism exhibition in Nigeria. This sector holds incredible promise, sustainable development if properly nurtured. My presentation is titled Advancing Sustainable Domestic and Ecotourism in Nigeria through Policy Development and Implementation. Now, why this topic? Why policy? In today's rapidly evolving global tourism landscape, it is no longer enough to rely solely on our natural beauty or cultural richness. The real game changer is policy. Well-crafted and properly implemented policies can unlock the full potential of tourism, not just as a leisure activity, but as a powerful engine for job creation, environmental preservation, community empowerment, and national pride. Unfortunately, despite Nigeria's abundant natural resources, vibrant culture, and a growing population of young, travel-savvy citizens, domestic and ecotourism still remain significantly underdeveloped. Many of our tourism assets are still untapped, mismanaged, or unknown to Nigerians themselves. And so the objective of this presentation is obvious: to explore how policy development and implementation can catalyze the promotion and sustenance of domestic and ecotourism in Nigeria. I will take us through a brief conceptual foundation, review the current state of tourism policy in Nigeria, highlight some challenges and gaps, and then propose actionable recommendations based on both local insights and global best practices. And by the end of this session, I hope we all agree that with the right policies, both written and implemented, we can reposition tourism as a cornerstone of Nigeria's sustainable development. To begin this conversation meaningfully, let's take a moment to define our key terms so we are all on the same page. What is domestic tourism? Domestic tourism simply refers to travel within one host country. For example, when a family travel from Kaduna, or a family from Kaduna, so to say, visited Ijesha Waterfall in Osun State, or when students from Ibadan tour the Benin Moat in Edo State, they are engaging in domestic tourism. Domestic tourism does more than entertain. It stimulates local economies, reduces the demand for foreign travel, and keeps tourism income circulating, within Nigeria. Think about this. If just 10% of Nigerians consistently travel within Nigeria for leisure, the economic ripple effect across transportation, hospitality, food vendors, artisans, and even local governments will be enormous. Now, what is ecotourism? Ecotourism, on the other hand, refers to responsible travel to natural areas that conserve the environment, respect local culture, and improve the welfare of the host community. It is not just about sightseeing, it is about preserving biodiversity, promoting local knowledge, and supporting community livelihood. So whether it is exploring the Happy Mountain Wildlife Sanctuary in Cross River or bird watching in Adejia Unguru wetlands in the northeast, ecotourism in Nigeria has immense potential to balance development with conservation. Now, why focus on sustainability? Now, the thread that connects both domestic and ecotourism is sustainability. In today's world, tourism may or must not be exploitative. We must ask, is this benefiting the host community? Is the natural environment being protected? Are future generations considered? Sustainable tourism ensures that we do not destroy the very assets that attract tourists in the first place, whether it is our forests, waterfalls, historic monuments, or even our culture. Interestingly, ecotourism is one of the fastest growing segments globally. Precisely because it supports both environmental and economic goals. And domestic tourism, this grew substantially during the COVID-19 lockdown. Why? Because people could no longer travel abroad. Countries turned inward and saw the power of their local tourism market. So as we continue this presentation, I want you to keep this in mind. Domestic and ecotourism are not secondary to international tourism. They are equally powerful, if not more so, when supported by innovative and inclusive policies. Let's take a snapshot of the Nigeria tourism landscape. Nigeria has over the years made attempts to develop tourism through policy interventions. Let me highlight a few key ones. The 1990 National Tourism Policy, which was a significant initiative launched by the Nigerian government to prioritize and develop the tourism sector, aiming to generate foreign exchange, create employment, and promote rural enterprises, and foster national integration. This policy provided a framework and strategies for tourism development, including infrastructure improvements, incentives for investors, and the establishment of the NTDC through Decree 81 of 1992. This was one of the earliest attempts to articulate Nigeria's tourism potential. However, it was largely declarative, ambitious on paper, but lacking structure for uh, implementation. We also had the 2006 Tourism Development Master Plan, developed with support from the United Nations World Tourism Organization, UNWTO, aimed to integrate tourism into Nigeria's national economic planning. It emphasized regional clusters and public-private partnership. It has 28 recommendations, most of which are yet to be implemented. Recently, the 2002 revised National Tourism Policy, though a draft, which aims to reposition the sector by aligning it with modern realities, including digital marketing, private sector involvement, and inclusive development. This draft has been dubbed. These documents are commendable, but policies, as we know, don't work unless they are implemented. What are the common challenges in policy implementation? Let's be honest, Nigeria's problem has never been the lack of good policies. It is the consistent failure to implement them effectively. The first one is the institutional overlap. There is often overlap and confusion between the roles of the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, the NTDC, and the State Tourism Board. Many of these bodies lack capacity, funding, and autonomy. We have poor intergovernmental coordination. States and local governments, which often possess tourism assets, are frequently excluded from the planning and budgeting process. There is no clear focus on domestic and ecotourism. There is neglect of community participation because most policies do not include strategies to empower or involve local communities that live closest to tourist sites. We have weak legal and regulatory framework to protect natural sites or heritage locations from degradation and encroachment. Now, let's quickly look at the gaps in current policy framework. Let's critically reflect on the few policy gaps that are especially relevant to today's discussion. Ecotourism remains an afterthought in the national strategy. There is no dedicated ecotourism policy or regulatory structure. Domestic tourism is undervalued. There is little to no incentive for Nigerians, to live within Nigeria, to live or to travel within Nigeria. No discounted interstate transport, no coordinated calendar of local tourism events, no official platform curating Nigeria's destination for Nigerian tourists, no integration of tourism with education, environment, and urban planning sectors. For example, how many school curricula include local tourism education? Or how many environmental impact assessment accounts for tourism reality? Now, despite our cultural richness and wonder, we should know this reality on the ground. Nigeria ranks poorly in global tourism competitiveness indices. We are not lacking potentially, we are lacking policy coherence, investment focus, and implementation discipline. Now, does this mean that we give up? Not at all. It means we rethink our approach. We shift the policy lens towards inclusivity, sustainability, and implementation. At this point, the question becomes, how can policy become a true catalyst for transforming Nigeria domestic and ecotourism landscape? In governance, policy should spark transformation, enable systems, empower people, and sustain outcomes. What makes a tourism policy effective? An effective tourism policy is not just a document, it is a living strategy that defines clear goals, engage stakeholders, establish timelines and accountability, build resilience into communities and ecosystems. Let's now discuss two dimensions, the policy development and policy implementation. To get policy right, we must rethink how we design it from the beginning. Here are three foundational strategies. Number one, stakeholder engagement. Tourism does not happen in government offices, it happens in the communities. Therefore, traditional rulers, local youth groups, transport unions, cultural associations, tour operators, and even artisans must be consulted during design. Their buy-in ensures that policies are grounded in local realities and community ownership rather than just elite authorship. Two, evidence-based design. Policy cannot rely on sentiment or copy and paste strategies from other countries. Nigeria must ask, what are the policy trends among our own people? Why do most Nigerians refrain from traveling locally? Which eco sites are at risk? What incentives work? We need data-driven insights to guide both ambition and execution. Three, integrated planning. Tourism cannot stand alone. It intersects with environment and natural resource management, cultural and heritage, education and youth development, infrastructure and transport, security and safety. Therefore, tourism policy must be integrated with other sectoral plans to create synergy and long-term sustainability. Now, let's move from what to write to how to execute. One, essential strengthening agencies like the NTDC and State Tourism Board must be technically equipped, financially empowered, free from excessive political interference. A strong institution can implement a good policy even when all these measures are in place. Number two, there must be monitoring and evaluation. Policies must come with indicator, key performance indicators. We want to know the number of domestic tourists per year. We want to know the percentage growth in ecotourism sites, the job creation in the tourism sector, revenue from tourism activities, level of environmental compliance, tourist satisfaction rate, number of new tourism policies successfully implemented. Without this, we are just flying blind. What are the benefits of KPI? I think we should know the benefits of KPI. They help to track progress, they provide accountability, they guide decision making, they make policy evaluation easier. Now, just to cut the long story short, here are 5 strategic recommendations to help Nigeria advance sustainable domestic and tourism through smart policies, development, and effective implementation. One, we need to prioritize domestic and ecotourism in national development agenda. Tourism should no longer be treated as an afterthought. At the national, state, and local level, we must intentionally position domestic and ecotourism as tools for economic diversification, youth employment, cultural preservation, environmental sustainability, among others. This begins with allocating budgets, assigning clear responsibility to ministries, and integrating tourism into national development blueprints. Number two, we must build capacity at all levels. Policies don't implement themselves, people do. We must train and empower our local tour operators and eco guides, community tourism committees, public officers in ministries of tourism and culture, security personnel stationed at tourist areas with the right skills. These stakeholders can turn even basic tourism infrastructure into meaningful visitor experiences and sustainable income. Thirdly, we need to digitize tourism promotion and data collection. Nigeria needs a digital strategy for domestic and ecotourism. This could include a national tourism app or platform showcasing verified local destinations, online booking systems for state-run parks and museums, the use of AI or drone tech for mapping and managing eco-sensitive areas, real-time data dashboard tracking local tourism flow and feedback. In a digital age like this, visibility is viability. If people don't know a place, they won't visit. Number four, strengthening of security and safety framework. No matter how beautiful a site is, people won't visit if they don't feel safe. Tourism policies must integrate with community policing initiatives, early warning systems, emergency response strategies, insurance schemes for local tour operators. Safe tourism is not just about guides and gates, it is about building trust. And lastly, we need to promote community ownership and benefit sharing. Policies must be structured to put local community at the center, not just as passive observers, but as active co-managers of tourism sites. This includes revenue sharing formula for ecotourism parks, local hiring quotas for tourism projects, support for community-led cultural festivals, food exhibitions, incentives for indigenous innovations, for example, locally made souvenirs or tour guides using local languages. Now, when community benefits, they protect. We should know that. When they are ignored, they resist. A people-centered approach is the only sustainable approach. In summary, these recommendations are not just theoretical, they are practical, actionable, and achievable if the political will, stakeholder collaboration, and a shared national vision for tourism can be in Nigeria. Distinguished colleagues, respected guests, fellow advocates of sustainable development. Let me conclude by bringing us back to the heart of today's presentation. Nigeria is a country blessed with incredible tourism potential, from the rolling hills of Mambila Plateau to the sacred groves of Osun-Osogbo, from the dunes of Yobe to the mangrove coast of the Niger Delta. Yet, despite this richness, our domestic and ecotourism sector has remained largely untapped, underdeveloped, underpromoted. The missing link is not lack of destination, not lack of interest, but certainly not lack of cultural assets. The missing link is policy that works. Policy that is thoughtfully developed, locally informed, data-driven, and above all, implemented with integrity. We must start treating tourism not as an ornament, but as infrastructure for national development, not just as for, but as employment, education, culture, and conservation wrapped in one. Today, I have tried to show that with sound policy that includes all stakeholders, robust implementation mechanisms, and a focus on sustainability, Nigeria can transform its domestic and ecotourism sector into vibrant, inclusive, and resilient engines of progress. The time to act is now. Let us move from paper to practice. Let us make policies that don't gather dust, but gather momentum. And most importantly, let us build a tourism system that works for our people, protects our environment, and tells the world Nigeria is not just a place to visit, it is a place to experience. Thank you all for your attention. I want to specially thank Dr. Obinna Onyosha, the CEO of Every Hospitality Services. He was in charge, he's the one in charge of this conference, of the conference where I presented this paper. I want to thank the NCDET, and also I want to thank all agencies, collaborated, to make the conference a reality. Most especially the Ministry for Culture and Tourism in Nigeria, Federal Ministry for Culture and Tourism in Nigeria. Thank you. I remain my humble self, Nathaniel Ileri Omotoba. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Tourism Studies, National Open University of Nigeria. Thank you and God bless.